what do you get when you cross a know-it-all newspaper columnist with an awkward, unsophisticated everyman?
Yeah. Well, I'm just not sure about that right now.
Welcome to Couch and the Rube.
Welcome to Couch in the Rube, presented by Pure Options Cannabis, where cannabis meets community. Good vibes, good people, good product. If quality means something to you with your cannabis, Pure Options is your place. Visit pureoptions.com. And a reminder, with a purchase of $50 or more, you get a free eighth of ProGrow, the Pure Options brand. Fantastic deal when you mention that Couch in the Rube sent you. And even if you're getting less, just mention that you heard of Pure Options from Couch in the Rube. We appreciate that. We appreciate them. You can support us by supporting them. And our Friday afternoon show, also presented by our friends at Firekeepers Eye Casino and Sportsbook. New members bet $5 and get 4 free $25 bets. No better time as March Madness is here to download the Firekeepers Eye Casino and Sportsbook app today. Bet the games we're betting. Enjoy the new member free bets. Jason, how you doing, brother?
Peacock.
I'm doing good, buddy. How are you? Long time no see, man.
Been a while.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Hey, shout out to Manscaped. Thanks for the Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra.
Yeah.
Treese will be happy about this.
Thrilled.
Yeah.
Been waiting on it. She's been texting me saying, when is this going to happen?
You guys are texting?
I'm just kidding. That got weird. Sorry. We'll fix that in post. We're almost
go ahead if you want.
Almost early enough to start the show over and just say, screw that. Delete that. Try it again.
Nah, you're all right.
Now we are going to dig into your Groovy Donut Twitter questions momentarily. Some great stuff today. Should be fun. I was also thinking about, and this comes from a listener suggestion, things we can do with Pure Options to sort of bake them into the show. No pun intended.
Pun intended.
Pun intended. Absolutely. This Monday when we do hot takes, if we have a you got your hot take, and then some people have a bonus take. And if you got something that's so outlandish that's cool, not everybody has to have this. Only do it if it's right. Don't do this as a way to get an extra take, but a purely baked take. What do you think?
Well, I started it last week with Zach Eady doesn't have testicles, so yeah, why
there
not?
You go. Like yes, that was.
Was that a listener or was that me? I think I came up with that idea.
I think it was. I'm pretty sure it was an email. No, I'm pretty sure it was a listener.
All right.
Maybe you emailed me. That's also possible. So anyway, that look for that on Monday. Before we dig into your Groovy Donut questions, as we do each week, what we're betting. Presented by Firekeepers Casino and the Firekeepers Eye Casino and Sportsbook app. Jason, what are you betting this weekend?
Well, I finished Full Swing 2 last night, so of course I have to gamble on some golf this weekend. The Arnold Palmer Invitational, one of my favorite tournaments of the year, and I have some bets floating already, but I kind of like to wait until either Sunday morning or Saturday. If you want to jump on a golfer, you can still get some pretty decent value. Then I don't really recommend betting on a Thursday unless you have like a person you're rooting for. Like I have Jordan Spieth, so I like to just sprinkle a little bit on Spieth, and he loves to break my heart with 3 bogeys in 4 holes. So I don't know if I'd recommend Jordan Spieth by any means. And I'm sure there's going to be a college basketball parlay. I'm kind of back. I'm into gambling on college hoops again. So I hit a parlay this week. So I have some what's the word I'm looking for? I have some
things.
Excitement about college basketball again.
Okay.
Anyway, all right.
I struggle with words too.
And names.
Yeah, for sure. A little bit of advice going into conference championship week. Be careful. I'll tell you right now, if I had never bet on a conference tournament in my life, I would be up probably like $5,000 more in bets. Like it is a unpredictable, like the value is in the underdogs for sure. You
bet Pacific yesterday then?
I was not on that. I don't. Yes, right.
9 points at halftime. They lost 102-43.
Yeah, not great.
Jesus.
Not great. But anyway, the value is in the unpredictable, It's in taking a flyer on teams. It's not in the teams that you think are sure things that might have been during the regular season at home. It's not in the Purdue's. People are worried right now because Michigan State could wind up being the 8th seed in the in the Big Ten tournament if they lose to Indiana, which means a second-round date with Purdue. Purdue's not the team you fear in the Big Ten tournament. You have no idea whether Purdue wants to be there. Purdue's got bigger fish to fry. They've already won the Big Ten. Like Illinois, a team that may want to prove itself. Who knows? You don't know who's motivated. It is unpredictable. Conference tournaments, period, are hard to predict. Just be a little careful on what you think is going to happen. It's a good week, not to sit out, but to just bet futures, bet some fun stuff. Little different than you might ordinarily. My bets this weekend, what I am betting is Premier League, of course.
No,
naturally.
Started off good.
Liverpool, Man City, one of the biggest matches of the year at Liverpool, at Anfield. I'm taking Liverpool as a pick'em plus 119. That means a tie, you get your money back. They win, you're getting plus money. And I don't know that they're better than Man City, but they're playing at home, and there's a real good chance this is a tie or it goes to Liverpool. The other thing to keep in mind is if Liverpool wins this, the futures bets on the Premier League are going to shift to Liverpool being minus money, and they're plus 200. So if you like Liverpool, maybe jump on them at plus 200 right now still to win the league. Those are a couple things that are out there. In terms of another game that I sort of like, I kind of like the Luton Town Crystal Palace over as well. Been listening to some podcasts, and that's where other people's analysis have led me there. So those will be the games that I am on this weekend. That is what we're betting, presented by our friends at Firekeepers and the Firekeepers iCasino and Sportsbook app. You can download the app or swing by Firekeepers off I-94 in Battle Creek and enjoy the in-house sportsbook experience at Dacey's Tap Room and Sportsbook. All right, you ready to dig into these Groovy Donut Twitter questions?
Yeah, man. Eric Schultz up first, of course. If every 4 or 5 games AJ needs a halftime epiphany to try hard, or he seems to play well but not make shots, as Graham so often says, can't we conclude that he's just not very good? We can.
I mean, he's inconsistent. That will be on his, plaque at Michigan State. Inconsistent. And part of it is I just don't think he's good enough to take over when he wants to. He's good enough if the setting is right. Once he figures out a game, it's why he sort of eases into it. He's good enough if he's able to get downhill. He's good enough if the situation is there for him. And we saw it. Again, we've seen it multiple times, and we saw it probably more pronounced than ever against Kansas State last year when he had 25 points and he was just brilliant. But he can't, like we saw it at Minnesota, just decide, I'm taking over. He's not a pro like that. Doesn't have that ability. Doesn't have the completeness to his game to do that. So things have to be in place, and things aren't always in place. So sometimes it's the variables around him that create the inconsistency, and sometimes it's just him.
Dominic up next. Couch, how come I told you Tom was adversarial about the portal for 3 years, and you continually stonewalled me, but your 69 buddy comes on today and echoes me verbatim, minus a couple C words and F-bombs, and you're all, I agree, BQ, 147%. I miss you. Let's hang out, please.
Dominic, I love you, man. First of all, I've been on the idea that they screwed up with the portal and should have added a big man for a while now. And I know you read. I'm not saying you don't. You're a well-informed man, Dominic. But
don't coach my team.
I think the first time I really said it was obvious that this was not going to end well because of that position mostly was after the Wisconsin game in late January, and I wrote that column. And so I do think, I understand why they didn't go in the portal this year. They just miscalculated. And it was a mistake because you had a veteran team, and you have a team that if you put a sound, internal presence, internal is probably the wrong word there. Interior would be the better word. You don't need an internal presence. I don't know if anybody needs that in their life. Probably do, actually. But anyway, fix that in post.
Got it.
If they had that, this team, you might think of this entire team differently. You might think of A.J. Hogarth differently. You might think of this team might have 5 or 6 more wins. They might be playing for a 1, 2, or 3 seed, and the whole dynamic is different because they didn't add that piece. And I understand that they thought certain guys were going to come along quicker. Carson Cooper might be further along based on how he developed last year. I understood that they thought that a guy like Xavier Booker was going to be further along, even though they knew he wasn't quite ready. I think they thought that they might be another gear for Mady Sissoko. And they didn't know Jackson Kohler was going to get hurt, and they thought he would give them something. Still, miscalculation based on everything they had coming back. You would only be recruiting over Sissoko to bring somebody else in. It was a grad transfer. Other teams have done it successfully and kicked your ass because of it, in part. So there's no question at this point that it was a mistake, and the only thing that can be done is to not compound it and double down and to make sure you use the portal, which I think, Michigan State has tremendous advantages with the transfer portal. They have good NIL in basketball, really good payroll. They're going to be able to pay somebody. They have a coach who's a legend, who's one of the, in terms of remaining legends in the game, he's one of the real top figures there is. A program still with a brand, and you should be able to get good transfers. Somebody's going to want to play for you who's 22 years old, come be part of that, especially a top mid-major big man, get to go play for Michigan State, get to go play for Izzo, make a couple $100K a year. Like, that's a really good deal, and they need to take advantage of it.
Next one from Dominic. Why do MSU fans have to eat shit for being impatient or spoiled or irrational? Yet in the last 5 years, I've personally heard Ebling compare Foster Lawyer to Larry Bird, Noah Kim to C.J. Stroud, and proclaim Jackson Kohler as MSU's second best player, and nobody bats an eye. Hashtag Freeburg knows. Johnny does know. He doesn't know how to listen to the show, but he knows other things.
Okay, wait a sec. I know Ebling's compared Foster Lawyer to lofty people. That was a miss. It was a miss. Noah Kim to C.J. Stroud, I did not know. I need to listen to more Ebling. That's maybe.
Well, Dominic listens for all of us.
Thank you, Dominic. Keep us posted. Maybe pure options in Ebling, like our audience on, having pure options, an edible, smoking, whatever you need to do to get, and then listening to Ebling after our show. You take the edible late in our show, it kicks in for Ebling. It's like a 4-hour experience like nothing else you've ever.
I thought you were talking about Ebling partaking.
That would be wild. That would be wild too. But
smoke down with Jack.
I think there's a possibility here with pure options and Ebling. I can't speak for Ebling. I don't know what. I didn't know he's doing this. I can't. Ebling's an old man at this stage. Who knows what he's saying? I can't. That sounded bad. Fix that in post. Holy shit. Sorry, Jack.
He's an old man.
Shows off the rails.
Dominic Graham, the Rookie is truly awful TV. Equalizer ass shit. Are you watching because your wife makes you? It's cool, man. This is a safe space. I used to watch Grey's Anatomy in 2007 because I wanted to have relations with a hot blonde from Macomb, and it worked. But now she's all MAGA.
Yeah, I mean, The Rookie is a palate cleanser. It's a guilty pleasure show for us. We like it. It's not.
So that means it's ass. If you say it's a guilty pleasure,
it's entertaining. It's not like we're big Chicago PD people. Like we like that. We like Law and Order, Chicago PD. That's our core police drama type show. But The Rookie is sort of like rarely does the lead characters die in The Rookie, or do you fear they'll kill them off. It's a little more campy. You're rooting for relationships between couples on the show, and it's that sort of show. It's different.
So it's terrible.
Terrible
in a roundabout way.
It's not. I don't think that's fair.
It's a guilty pleasure. Yeah. All right. Miller next. Was Keon Coleman forced to leave the basketball team, and was that related to him transferring? If so, can we blame Mel Tucker for all the issues in both sports?
Well, okay, so Keon Coleman, here's the timeline. Keon Coleman comes back from in 2022. He finishes the season. He's got the injury, and I think if he doesn't have the injury, he might have played basketball. He's got, was it a groin, a hip, whatever it was, and so he can't join the team right away. He comes back over Christmas break, practices with the team for a couple days, and then somewhere in there was a conversation, and I think the conversation largely had, this is your money year. You need to focus on the offseason with football. You need, like he's going to be a top 10 pick in part because he started focusing on football. It wasn't the wrong decision for Keon Coleman not to play basketball. Did it contribute to him leaving? I don't know. Like Keon Coleman in part came to MSU because he could play both sports, because he could play for Izzo. So if he plays for Izzo and has a good experience that year, does he not transfer? It's hard to say, partly because the next year, if he had gone pro in football, right now, he wasn't going to be playing basketball anyway. But it might have changed his experience, how he thought about MSU. Who knows? It's hard to say. He made the right decision, though, on focusing on football. It was time to do that.
Next from Miller. Did the 3-minute airball chant fully exercise the demon that Boo Booey unleashed into the Breslin years ago? Could you feel the curse lift?
It was a long chant. It was impressive. The
3-minute one, though?
Yeah.
Up and down the court? I mean,
I will say the fact that the last shot was not Boo Booey and there was somebody else and then it clanged off the back iron, maybe that was it. Maybe that was the curse of Boo Booey finally lifting.
Save senior night.
Yeah, so perhaps it did. The Izzone, well done.
MZA up next. What is the biggest issue on this year's MSU basketball team?
Well, let's put the center thing aside for a second because that is the biggest issue. Like, that's what limits them. But this team, as it's constructed, as it can be fixed or whatever it can be done during the year, what is the biggest issue there? And to me, it is Tyson Walker's injury above all. Because if Tyson Walker is the player he was for the first half of the season, more than 20 points a game instead of 15 points a game, more than 40% from three instead of 31 or 2% from three. If he's that guy, the star, so to speak, then this team wins at Minnesota because he doesn't get hurt. I think they beat Ohio State and Iowa. And maybe that's all. But just those 3 wins alone have Michigan State at 13-6, tied in second place with Illinois, playing for a 4 seed, 5 seed, whatever it is, but looking like a team that'll be, predicted almost to get to the Sweet 16 at least. Much more likely to make a run with a guy who looks like he can truly carry them, and as Izzo said, can take them places. Like, I don't know if this version of Tyson Walker can take them places. Maybe he'll be healthy enough to do so. Maybe he'll be able to summon whatever he needs to get it done. But we haven't seen the player that he was the first half of the year very consistently. We see it in spurts. He's a great player. Still a really good player in this state. But that, to me, is the biggest single issue in terms of where this team has gone from. And I know Jaden Aiken's not hitting shots. Hogarth's inconsistent. There's all that stuff. The center position is still the center position. But if you simply had no injury to Tyson Walker, I think it'd be a different picture right now.
MZA up next. Assuming Hogarth and Sissoko leave, what is this MSU's team ceiling next year?
Well, it depends who they bring in. Do you go get a sizable wing? Do you get a big man? What sort of big man? Like, I would be inclined. I don't think it needs to be a center. I think it can be a 4-2 that somebody can play the 4 or the 5, depending on where you want to use Booker, how the other guys develop. You need somebody rugged who can rebound, who can play both spots. You need like an Antonio Smith type or, somebody who's, that's dating it back. But you know what I mean? You need a rugged rebounder. We'll see what they do. And we'll see if anybody else leaves. That's the other thing we just have no sense of right now. So it's very hard to tell at this point. It's different than years past where you just knew, well, this is the roster next year. These are the guys they have coming in. And you could kind of map it out. You just can't do that right now.
MZA, what is the biggest disagreement you two have had on air?
We had one fight like years ago.
Oh, it was way early, yeah. I was still drinking then, I think.
I can't even
But you
remember.
were getting really butthurt about this Mexico trip that I didn't really play. I mean, I was invited to by my father-in-law. I really didn't have any options to.
But that was different.
Yeah. It wasn't like a knockdown, drag-out fight or anything, but, it was like you were kind of butthurt about it. I'm like, dude, I didn't mean to.
Was I butthurt? I was giving you a hard time. There's no doubt.
No. Okay, butthurt, hard time, either way.
Yeah. But the only time we've actually had like snapped at each other on air was like, we're talking 2018-19.
Oh, yeah.
We were doing 5 days a week, 2 hours a day. And, I think our only sponsor at the time was like, well, we had Groovy Donuts in Front 43. So we had some of the OGs. I shouldn't say that. But we were doing a lot for a little. And things got tense. And I wish we could find that episode because I just it wasn't much. It was just a slight,
it wasn't that big a deal.
Yeah.
I don't want to hear it again, though.
You don't want to hear it?
No, I do not.
Why not?
I don't know. I don't listen back to any of the shows. I can't.
It would bring back bad memories?
No. I just hate the sound of my voice or whatever. I'm just too critical. And I mean, like, if you and we have a killer show or something, I can listen to a tad of it. But other than that, I can't. No.
Yeah. Nah. Speaking of the OGs of sponsors, by the way, Groovy Donuts, Andrew and Monica with this since the beginning, really, champions of ours. And probably wouldn't. I don't know if we'd still be doing this if it wasn't for people like Andrew and Monica. I don't know if we would have gotten over the hump at certain points. So if you're looking for a sponsor to, and you know how we feel about Groovy Donuts, but supporting them is something we don't want you to just do that to support us. We want you to do that because you like great donuts. And their donuts, there's a difference between what they do and what you're going to get at any other place, especially these, I don't want to say, Quality Dairy is an institution in Lansing, but it's not as fresh, it's not as good, it's not done with as much care. Groovy Donuts, you will taste the difference. And like this week, they've got Mexican hot chocolate donuts, rich cream chocolate topped with cinnamon glaze and a touch of cyan, I think that's pronounced. I don't even know what that's for a little heat. Accepting pre-orders at groovydonuts.com. You can swing by either location, pick up 6 donuts, taste them all, eat them all, share them, whatever you want to do. There are 2 locations on Lake Lansing Road in East Lansing and also in Williamston, open 7 a.m. to 1 p.m. Thursday through Sunday.
Professor up next. Bazooka to the head. How many more games does MSU win this season?
Bazooka time.
What's your guess here?
I don't know if they beat Indiana.
I don't think they do.
Who do they? Okay. So they don't beat Indiana, the Big Ten tournament.
And it's hard to tell who they're going to play yet.
Right.
Yeah.
I think, okay, they snag a game there.
Yep.
And then lose in the first round in the NCAA tournament. So I'm going to say one more.
I think they win 2 more. I think they don't win in Indiana. They win the first round of the Big Ten tournament, feeling a little heat, like they need to get that done. I think they'll probably be in either way, but they'll feel the heat. They get that done. They wind up as a 9 seed. They get past an 8, and then they put up a decent effort against the 1, but they're just not as good. And I think that's that would be my.
Your somber voice is even making it better.
Is it?
Yeah.
How close is my somber voice to my donut voice? Is it?
Oh, it's way off.
Way off.
They're too different. Yeah.
Okay.
Tyson's Fury. Would you keep Walker out of the Big Ten tournament if MSU beats Indiana?
I don't know. I would sit down with Walker though. Like Walker it's one thing for Walker to not tell me how hurt he is and always act like he's okay. I think MSU's trainers and coaches are had a hard time figuring out exactly how bothered he was because he's a kid who just doesn't want to. He's good. I'm good to go, and he plays at a level high enough where it's hard to argue, right? I mean, he's playing Division I college basketball, averaging 15 points a game in the Big Ten. He's clearly good enough to play. But the question is, would rest do him well? You'd have a frank conversation, like what the conversation I would have with him if they were to, because you're talking even to make a run at the Big Ten tournament, you're talking 4 games in 4 days. Like that doesn't help a guy like that. So if they beat Indiana, I'd have a frank conversation with him and say, "Are you going to be a better player? Are you going to feel better? Do you think?" And I need you to be honest with me because we need you to carry us. If you have a week off and then prepare for the NCAA tournament, what does that do for you for not playing those games? And I would seriously have that conversation. They're not going to have it. He's going to play. But I'm just saying that.
Do you think you would be honest with the staff, though, too?
I would try to implore him to say, do you think – because the reality is also if you don't think it's going to make a difference, then let you play. But if you think – like if you feel better after 2-3 days rest and you think feeling better after a week's rest may help you, then – maybe you do that.
Couldn't Izzo talk to the doctor and get a prognosis from him and then make a decision yourself? Because if Tyson Walker's going to say, no, coach, I'm good, like that's noble and everything, but we kind of need to know.
But a doctor can't read somebody's pain all the time. You know what I mean? I don't think it's not as clear. I don't think this is a real clear one. It's not like,
well,
it's
fuck
like,
it, let him play.
Yeah, it's not like they look at they're like, hey, this is a skull fracture. You probably shouldn't be out there. I mean, I think it's a harder with muscle injuries. It's a if that's 100% what this is, I'm still impressed he's playing through a groin injury. I mean, it's just unpleasant.
Joey Walter next. Does this year's MSU group remind you more of the 2010-2011 team that was preseason top 5, eventually getting bounced in the first round of the NCAA tournament, or the 2014-2015 team that found something in the Big Ten tourney and made an unexpected Final Four run? Can Tyson Walker pull a Trice?
I wasn't around the 2010-11 team, so I saw that team from afar.
Let's call Rex Road.
Some attention, right. There are differences because obviously the 2010 team, 2011 team had done a lot, I think was sick of each other. had accomplished more than this, and it was pretty dysfunctional. I don't think this is a dysfunctional group. I don't think this group's as good as that in terms of talent. But I also think there's arguably more than there was in certain ways. Yeah, I don't know more. The 2014-15 team is probably who they are more similar to. But this team was better than the 2014-15 team for a lot of the season. So can Tyson Walker pull a Trice? It's just there's been a number of seniors, the Goran Sutons, other guys who have been great late. So it's not just Trice. Can they summon a great performance, a great 2 performances in the postseason? Sure. To do it as long as Trice did it, Trice changed how he was thought of in MSU basketball history. He went from a guy who was sort of a forgettable lead guard and a good role player on better teams to a guy who's a top 50 all-time guy, and that's just because of one run. So that's hard to see. But Walker's got more talent than Trice. I would say that he's capable of it.
Luke Bungie up next. Headed to Vegas this weekend. Please give me your best Premier League bet.
Yeah, it's not a great betting weekend. It's a great watching weekend. Like I would say that if you're there Sunday still for that Manchester City Liverpool game, you're going to want to put money on that, and I would put a little bit money on Liverpool. They're at home. Pick them, you get your money back. But I really like Crystal Palace, Luton Town. When you look at the fact that line is still 2.5, and you can get minus 125 for over. I like that. I also sometimes live bet the overs because if you can get 20 minutes in a match, you can get and it's still scoreless. You can get that line down to 2. The thing is, if somebody scores, it screws it up, and you got to be willing to walk away. But that would be my bet this weekend. I like Everton a little bit, but they just haven't been playing well. So I just have a feeling about Everton. At Manchester United. So maybe a sprinkle a little on what are they, plus 300, something like that? Let me see.
What about the Young Boys of Atlanta?
The young Boys of I don't know.
Are they up?
They're not in the Premier
League.
League.
Oh,
they're playing somewhere. Sure.
BPA next. I've heard your 6 foul takes since the Bush presidency years, but you've never said if the team fouls and bonus would go up too. Teams will be more aggressive. Are we just watching double bonuses at the 15-minute mark?
Well, I think the thing you want to do is they're not going to want to have double bonuses, by the way. That doesn't help teams if teams are more aggressive. Like there's a punitive angle to that. And I do think you want to go to quarters too, and you're in it's 5 fouls a quarter, just like the women have right now. I don't know. I don't. There might have to be adjustments if things got too aggressive. Again, I don't think 6 fouls is 100% necessary. I think having a player who's allowed 6 fouls would be key. So if you knew every game that you don't have to designate it before the game, but you could have one player who doesn't foul out when they get to 6. And, if it's Madi Sissoko, you could say, no, we'll let him foul out. But if it's Tyson Walker, you can choose that player. That would give you the freedom, I think, a little more with one guy to play them deeper into the first half with foul trouble or deeper into the game with foul trouble, knowing, it would help keep stars on the court. And that, I think, would be really helpful. So I would love 6 fouls overall, but I would really settle and be very happy if just one player each game on each team could get to 6 and not foul, before fouling out of the game.
Seth, 7171 next. Couch, you have the 20th pick in the NBA draft, and your team needs a center. Are you taking Edey or Khalil Ware from Indiana?
So give me some Hoff real quick. I want to check one thing.
And I ride.
Peacock.
I ride through the city's backside. I see the stars.
Okay.
Come on.
So I'm going with Edey. Ware may eventually have a higher upside than Edey, but I think he's still only projecting the 20s. That's what I wanted to check on. To me, Edey is this fascinating prospect. And I don't know if he can ever be a starter on a good team in the NBA because he's just so different. You got to build your team around him. I don't know if it works. I am fascinated by the idea of building a second unit around Edey. Like, to me, you see like the Pistons' second unit just kills them. You see these second units that aren't as good. Like, build a second unit around him. and a guy who's going to play 15 minutes a game and is going to be the centerpiece of that second unit throughout the regular season. That would be my play with him, and that's worth it anywhere beyond like 15 and beyond. It's worth drafting Zach Edey to try to get that player who gives you a really strong second unit, who's a pain for other teams to deal with. That would be me. Edey is a fascinating prospect.
But other than clogging the lane, what is he at the NBA level good at? I think he's going to go to the NBA and get absolute punk.
He can finish around the rim really well. He's
7'5". It's fucking 2 feet away. Yeah, he should be able to finish around the rim. That's not something that you do.
He can protect the rim. He's got an 8-foot wingspan. Like I think we're going to find
he's
out.
Sean Bradley.
No, he's so much thicker and better than Bradley.
Huh?
Well,
his thighs.
Mm.
Corey Ostrom up next. A.J. Hogard played off ball at winning time against Northwestern for the most part. Do you see this as a trend or simply a result of matchups?
They've done it occasionally. And what's weird is Hogard at one point, you saw him out of sync with Walker. Walker threw the ball away, and Hogard was like running toward him. And Hogard is our friend who pointed out on the pod last week. His best shooting, three-point shooting, he's above 50%, is in the corner. So that's where he ought to be taking threes if he's doing it. Yeah, I think at some point, they like to have the ball in Tyson Walker's hands. You like to have multiple ball handlers, and they've been doing it quite a bit of the season where he's off the ball at times and then comes and gets it, and they do different things. I think you'll. I don't think it's anything new, so I think you'll continue to see it.
Speaking of AJ, back to the earlier part of the show where you talked about AJ not being able to. You don't think he can take over games, and that's what the issue is. When did you start to feel that way? Was it before the season or during the season? You're like, man, Hogard really can't take the game over like he wants to.
I mean, there have been glimpses of it, but the Minnesota game was really telling for me because what I had seen from AJ at points in his career, the strongest points, was a guy who, even though he didn't have a great outside shot, could get downhill at will. And that teams have figured out how to kind of take away from him at times. And the lack of a jump shot is hurt him. And then he just hasn't finished as well in the paint and at the rim. And so when you're not finishing great down there either, and you're not always getting enough, a guy like that ought to be living at the line, putting pressure on the defense. And for a long time I thought that was in him, and I'm just not sure it is. And the jump shot really limits him because teams have figured out now how to limit him a little bit getting in the paint.
Next from Corey, what's the best matchup for Kel'el Ware down low and Malik Renault? Is it best to play physical against their slight builds or go small?
It's a good question. And we're recording this podcast Friday afternoon. MSU has availability, so I'll talk with Tom Izzo later today. We'll get a sense a little bit of what he thinks of this matchup. At this point, if I'm Michigan State, I'm not worried about the other matchup as much as I'm worried about my guards being better than Xavier Johnson. I'm letting my rotation play out. I'm playing Xavier Booker 12 to 15 minutes. I'm, playing the bigs the way I've been playing them. You're going to ride Malik Hall quite a bit, but you need your guards. Where Indiana has gotten good is Xavier Johnson. The last 3 games is playing really well, and I don't know what to be honest. I don't know what the best answer is. I could give it to you, but I don't have a sense of what works best for this team. I'd be less worried about Indiana matchup for matchup, trying to adjust to who they are, than I would, say, Purdue.
Alex James next. If Izzo messaged you, Graham, in a few weeks and said he's calling it a career, what would you do first?
Tweet? No, I'm kidding. No, I'd want to have a conversation why. That would be my first thing. I'd try to get him on the phone beyond that and do the interview and write the story. That would be
then come here and do a podcast with Alex Heward.
And then do a live podcast. Yeah, do an emergency podcast.
Because I'm going to be far, far away, apparently, somewhere.
Yeah. When is that?
No, just on vacation.
Oh.
I have a feeling like I'd be on vacation.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah. No, that is definitely true. You would be in like Alaska or someplace, on a mountain, and when the news drops.
As long as they have good weed there. Mark Snyder next. I was told by an ex-employee over at the AM station that they receive pressure from MSU to refrain from letting callers on who are overly critical of MSU athletics. Have you felt that from anything you have said on your show?
No, never.
What AM station?
Yeah, 7:30. I'm guessing.
Oh, all right.
Yeah, I have no idea actually, but I've never ever had anybody at MSU tell me not to write something or not to say something. Now maybe they just don't listen.
But don't they air some doesn't Will Tiemann have some sort of
yeah, there might be some
affiliate,
there might be some affiliate issues with and some there might be some, they might have some ties that create some.
And Stout doesn't have an opinion at all, so it doesn't matter about his show. You have to worry about it.
Yeah, things that may allow them to do that. I've never had that. I don't think they would. I think they know me well enough to know that I would be really put off by that. So it wouldn't be a great move for our relationship. And I also, yeah, I mean, I try not to cross any lines. We have some fun here and whatnot, but I don't try to be. I try to be fair to people, and I think people know that as well.
Mark Snyder, if Jonathan Smith asked you about the best places to buy a home in this area, what advice would you give him?
West Side neighborhood, close to Harry's, which is a good place. Or
and then he would say, no, seriously.
Yeah. No, it depends on what you're looking for, but bang for your buck, awesome neighborhood, cool people to be around, good vibes. West Side neighborhood in Lansing is as good as it gets. If you're talking school district and you want your kids to be walkable and go to the same school as their neighbors and all that stuff, there are probably other places. I don't know, but I don't want to say it out loud because it'll piss me off. Because anything but Lansing will piss me off. But West Side neighborhood in Lansing would be my
so
my
Okemos
place.
then?
I would go Grand Ledge before Okemos. I couldn't bring myself to say the O word out loud.
Mark Snyder, haven't had a single sip of alcohol in 8 days. Trying for at least a month, but hopefully longer. No physical withdrawals, but I get a mental craving. I have to fight once or twice each day. Any advice for kicking booze for good?
Well, you're a good person to.
Yeah, but I did another route. Like, I had to quit or I was going to die and lose everything I had. So it's pretty. I mean, I hate to bring myself, because it seems like Mark has kind of a good grip on it. I think maybe if meetings, like AA meetings, help you, maybe that's something. When you have those cravings, you go to a meeting.
I don't know if he's an alcoholic, though. I don't sense that.
You don't
here.
have to be an alcoholic. If you think you're having a problem, you need to talk to somebody. He's asking the question. It doesn't make you a full-blown alcoholic. People have different problems, Graham, with just, it's me. Yeah, it was full-blown, there was one gear to my drinking, and it was just go, go, go until you pass out and fall asleep. So, it's different for everyone else. And then, pure options, weed for me has been a blessing. So everyone has different kind of things, but it seems like, Mark, from what I'm reading from just this question, is that you just, maybe you need to talk to somebody, somebody about it.
So I'm somebody who's done, like, I went a dry 6 months. I've done dry Januaries. I've done it for different reasons. And
dry 2023s.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, we get it, dude.
But what I mean is I'm not, I'm somebody who can give it up, but I like it. I love, two things. One, I sometimes have these like cluster headaches things. So it's kind of like a different story than you, but like every couple of years I get them for like 3 weeks where it's like debilitating pain, and it's triggered. One of the things that triggers it is alcohol. So I have no interest in alcohol for a while because I just know the pain that's coming.
Have you been to the doctor about
that?
Yeah.
There's nothing I can do. I mean, it's cluster headaches. It's not a common thing, but it is what it is. There's no real. There's not a great danger behind them, and it's only every couple 3 years. But other times, what I try to do for me, if I'm going, take 2 weeks off of drinking or whatever, I try to create other experiences I enjoy near me. Like, I drink a lot of Coke Zero, or as Jason said, pure options before going to bed is for me, it's a different substance, something I enjoy. But if I create things that are alternatives that I enjoy, that I have nearby and readily available, and that just helps me if you have that moment where you're like, like a glass of wine.
I tried the Coke Zero thing at the beginning of it, just hammered like 15 Coke Zeros a day. So, like I said,
you have to transition out of that eventually.
I know. I have the bloodline of an addict. Like, my dad is an alcoholic. My grandfather was an alcoholic. So the Nick family line is we're booze bags. So there's not really, you just have to, either you quit or you just keep drinking. It's just.
And this is something, the folks at Pure Options have some interest in helping people with, not so much just alcohol, but like medicinal side, and
it's helped me immensely.
Yeah, and so we'll do some stuff with them at some point. Obviously, if you go into a store, they'll answer your questions, and they're good folks. And
I've had people that are you quit drinking, but now you're just doing weed. So what's the difference? And those are people that you just don't want in your life because it's a big difference. It's a choice that you have to make, and if you can handle certain things, I've never felt better in my 44 years. So. It's just, like I said, different for everyone. NPC softball dad next. Why was I thinking my wife would want sex once I told her I was Couch in the Roof official collegiate softball correspondent? I should probably invest in Manscaped.
100%. The softball correspondent thing does not come with extra sex.
Yeah.
Usually.
You better have your balls clean.
It's like
claim that.
Yeah. I'm not even going to tell the story because it's bad.
Oh, you have to now.
Oh, fuck.
You have to. It can't. I have the oatmeal story right here. It can't beat that.
Well, no, there are a couple different times in my life where, I've thought that I was a big God, this is embarrassing. Fuck. So, I wrote a story in Freeport, Illinois, when I'm like 22 years old, and it was on this. It was a serious story about a teenager who was a receiver on the football team in Orangeville, Illinois, who had died, he had died in a car accident. His sister was with him, and she had seen an animal on the road and pointed it out, and he had swerved in the car. Anyway, whole town was messed up. His family was real messed up. Interviewed a lot of different kids, and early on in Freeport, I'm like 22 years old, and just felt like a badass for this story I'd written, right? Of course, it's about me, even though I wrote this whole story about a town. And I go out to their first football game after their opening game in 2022, and I'm dressed to the nines for a sports writer, better than I dress now. Like, nice button-down shirt. I didn't own a muskox flannel back then. Good slacks and everything. And I remember thinking to myself, like, and I just met some people. I'm like, these people must all know who I am. Like, this is,
oh no,
it was just bad. And I remember my 22-year-old self was like, this is going to be fun. This is going to be good for me in this. I can't even believe I told this story because I remember myself thinking like, people knowing me in this town is going to be good with the ladies. And nobody gave a fuck who I was. Nobody other than the people I'd interviewed knew my face from anything. And it didn't help me at all with the women. So I really wish we were fixing this. My face is bright red right now. That is a story not worth telling that I wish I didn't. Presented by our friends at Midtown Brewing Company, 402 South Washington Avenue in downtown Lansing. Midtown Brewing Company, by the way, has some an excellent menu for St. Patrick's Day weekend. I'm you know how we feel about them, and if you were at our live show, you've been there. But shepherd's pie is on the menu, which I think is about as good as it gets. And then also the Midtown corned beef Reuben. And so what's probably going to happen to me is I'm going to do that thing where I order the shepherd's pie with a side of corned beef Reuben. And
can you get a side of?
No, but that's what I mean. You
Reuben?
just say it that way so it doesn't sound quite so gluttonous, and you order both meals.
Right.
That is my plan. Just sounds absolutely fantastic on the St. Patty's Day weekend at Midtown Brewing Company in downtown Lansing.
You're the best, man. NPC softball dad, what would MSU's record be this season if Bates played 2 years and they never recruited Jaden Akins?
It's so hard to know because Amani Bates' track would have been different playing for Izzo, I think. Who knows? Maybe not. Maybe it would have been a disaster, but it might have been a very different deal. And I still think Akins is a really good player who's just in a slump right now. And has he taken the leap that I think he wanted to take this year? No. And some of that, I think, is the way things are constructed around him. Some of it, he's got to get better as a ball handler and do some things, and maybe next year will be that chance. But it's just so hard to project. I have no idea what Bates would have been.
Where is Amani Bates?
He's in the G League or something right now, yeah.
Steve, next. Not a critique, only an observation. Jaden Akins cannot break a defender down. That results in a bucket at the rim in MSU's half-court offense this year. Makes him one-dimensional in a half-court game. Agree?
It doesn't help him, but he also doesn't have the ball in his hands enough. Like what he wants, and this is why I think playing the 2 next year could help him if he's playing that more. But you're right. He has not shown that ability a lot. Now, he does have a good crossover that gets him a shot that's open. Every once in a while we see him get to the rim with it, but he doesn't do it often. But he also doesn't get great opportunities at it. But you're right. I think that is an area he needs to work on, because right now he is kind of a mostly a 3-and-D player, except he's only 6'4", so that doesn't work at the next level. And obviously he's not hitting shots right now. But if he wants to get to the next level, he's going to have to be a guy who does things with the ball in his hands.
Chris Eastlick next. Is it concerning that MSU has no center recruiting targets? Is the plan to just use the portal?
It's a good question. I don't think it's concerning if the plan is to use the portal, because, again, most freshmen, and we've just seen it with Booker, we saw it with Cole, we've seen the last bunch of freshmen to come in. Most freshmen aren't going to be ready for you. You don't want a freshman to be your answer. If your freshman is your answer, most likely that's no answer at all at that position. I mean, there have been very few centers. You got to go, and I'm not talking Nick Ward, because he didn't play a lick of defense either, and that's not. I mean, he could score, and so Nick Ward to some degree on one end of the floor, and then Jaren Jackson became a really good defender that year, but there have not been a lot of freshman centers who have been ready to go and ready to contribute. So. I have to think that's the plan, that they're going to try and find a big in some capacity that helps elevate that group. And you got to figure out if everybody's staying too, and so how many you need. Do you just need one? And how you want to use Booker going forward, the 4 or the 5 more often, and then what and then who's available and who you can get and who's interested.
Some dude next. Couch, do you think the boo-booey air ball and subsequent 3+ minute air ball chant had an impact on the game? It seemed to. Very impressive.
It's a good the timing of the game when it was going on. It felt like the place was alive, and Michigan State was. Yeah, I mean it's possible. And the crowd matters. I mean, college basketball crowds impact the game more than any other crowd, I think, in sports. They're close to the floor. They're intense. They care, and that's why the home road splits, that and how they impact the officiating.
And players can hear you more.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. I mean, even Tyson Walker talked about this. I mean, they could hear it, and he said it's his favorite chant. He loves it. He does it in practice to his own teammates when they miss. And it was a pretty good moment for the Izzone.
Some dude, shouldn't all football teams go for it more often on 4th down? How much are we shitting our pants if we're up 4 points and we know the other team is in 4-down territory at the end of the game?
It's a fair point. Like, one of the worst things, Jason, when you're an opposing fan is when the other team has the ball, you want them to punt it. You're like, fuck, they're going to go for it here. That sucks because they're probably going to get it. Like you do fear the other team's 4th down almost more than you are encouraged by your own teams. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it changes the mentality. I mean, the way Dan Campbell does it, I know he gets criticized a lot, and I've criticized him too about it. But like you said, I mean, it's just the mentality of knowing, even for the players, these guys are going to go for it on 4th down. It has to have some sort of factor. But I just don't think a lot of coaches want to do it. I don't think they have the balls.
Well, and there are a lot of coaches too who believe this is D'Antonio. Although D'Antonio had this in him. I mean, he did a lot of trick plays. He had a flair for the moment for a long time in his career on that. But the Kirk Ferentz and there are NFL coaches feel this way, that more games are lost than won. And especially
Kirk Ferentz. Why are we talking about Kirk Ferentz?
If you think you got a defense, sometimes you don't want to screw them over. The flip side of that is
score 6 points on offense.
But the flip side of that too is if you got a great defense, you can put them in some spots once in a while, and they should be able to get you out of them.
Some dude, does Jackson Kohler have a green light for shooting the 3?
He was supposed to before the year, and I think he does to some degree. It needs to be in rhythm and open. He doesn't have the
two things, huh?
He doesn't have the green light the way Tyson Walker has it, the way even Booker has it, and obviously a guy like Jay Nakins. But and I think that was part of the reason Izzo was unhappy with him with this second 3 he took at Purdue. So it looks like he didn't have confidence in him. They were leaving him open. He hesitated, and then it was kind of awkward. Like, once you hesitate, once you lose rhythm, you just got to give up the ball because you're not going to make it if you lose rhythm. Just let it go. The only other thing you can do, and my favorite thing to do in pickup ball, is the fake pass to create rhythm. Like, you sort of fake it to somebody else, you get it back and shoot. And that's the one thing. If you hesitate, fake the pass, bring it back to yourself, shoot it. It creates rhythm. Little advice for the Michigan State basketball team.
From a guy that can't touch rim, ever.
Yeah, maybe we should do that segment. That would be a fun segment. Like advice for the MSU basketball team from us.
You touch rim.
No, I can't.
Mark Osterman next. Graham, great job on the BTN Kiss the Floor special, but not wearing a muskox flannel may have been life's greatest mistake.
So I was wearing a muskox flannel. Unfortunately, I am a fat oaf and heavy sweater. And so they show up. I don't know what, they come into our living room with this huge TV crew. It was like a whole afternoon deal. I did not realize that's what was happening. And the amount of furniture I needed to move to create their space got me a little hot. And then they have all these huge lights, kind of like we do in this room, on me. And so we start to film it, and I actually did have a muskox flannel on, and my upper lip is just, and my forehead just sweating like crazy. So we had to stop. I had to go change. And even in one of the scenes, you can still see the sweat on my lip, and I'm just wearing like a polo. It was, if I had stuff moved ahead of time and been a little less fat, because muskox can make you look good, can make you feel good, but it cannot actually make you less fat if you're fat.
Did they tell you they were coming over, right? I mean, they obviously didn't say how many people they were going to have with them?
Yeah, I didn't realize it was quite the TV. I thought we were doing a little 3-point lighting. I used to do that back in college. We got some room for that. It was quite the.
So why didn't you have like a fan on or something? It's your house. I mean,
in
if I was
hindsight,
sweating in my house, I would just get the fan and
just get so the hair is blowing through my hair. It looks like them in the wind or something. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, definitely. That was in my thought was definitely muskox flannel. But it was not to be, thanks to my own gluttony.
David Jackson next. When MSU doubles the post, the opposing big usually hits a teammate for an open three. When MSU posts up a big, a double means we have a 50-50 chance at a turnover or, at best, a full offensive reset. Why the disparity?
Yeah, no, this is a good point because it does seem that way. You got to have bigs who can create out of the post, and Michigan State does not have a lot of them. And even Malik Hall is a guy, when the double comes, he doesn't create out of it. He dribbles out of it, and he can get you out of trouble for a reset. But he doesn't have this sort of knack for whipping the pass and finding the open guy. That's just not his strength. Hauser was better at that. I think Kohler has that in him. It's been a rough year for him. Like the reason, if you're Michigan State, that you want Kohler to stick around is he may never be your starting center. He may or may not ever be a starter for you. Although I think when you lose Hall and you're playing, I think he can be but he can be a valuable player at multiple positions, and he's a guy that I think if he gets a full, summer into a season, there's some value to him offensively, and I think he can create for some other people. Michigan State does not have those sort of bigs. I mean, Sissoko just doesn't see that at all. Cooper is going to get better at it. He's very aware of it. He's good at the dribble handoff stuff and holding the ball a little bit, but it's based on your personnel.
Next one from David. Have you watched Aiden Child's film from last year? Is he run first, or is he a true dual threat who hangs in the pocket?
I've watched a little. I mean, I haven't studied the All 22 or anything like that, but I've watched enough of him. He's a dual threat. I mean, he's a passing quarterback. That's what he wants to be. They used him on some design runs, but a lot of times it was taking off. That the offense will be for him to be a dual threat pass first guy, and ultimately how good they are will depend on his passing.
Next one from David. Based on this MSU staff's history, will MSU use a fullback on 1st and 10? Will we go 3 wide?
Even the old, you don't find anybody really using a fullback anymore. It's just there aren't many of them. This, based on at least what I saw at Oregon State, you'll see, you might see double tight ends, or you'll see 3 wides and a single back set. And nothing. And I haven't watched all their games, but I've watched, probably 2 full games combined when just sort of watching highlights and stuff, and I don't remember seeing a lot of fullback.
Beppe Plum next. Is Brenda Tracy suing MSU as stupid as if I sued the state of Tennessee because my ex-girlfriend and former teacher cheated on me with the football coach? I mean, I should get $340 million for my suffering. Duffel bag trip is back on, gentlemen.
So I don't know if you saw this, Jason, but
I did, yeah.
Yeah. Brenda Tracy is suing Michigan State and Mel Tucker.
$50 million for her, $25 for her foundation, right?
Yeah, asking for it.
Why not ask for $100?
Yeah, it's not a great look. And I want to be careful here because I have not seen the lawsuit itself, so I don't know what the extent of her damage claims are and why and who did what to her. There will be a lot in discovery that I don't actually think will be that helpful to her. And the counter is, if you're worried about reputation, I mean, if I were MSU, asking for $75 million makes you look a certain way that isn't helpful to your reputation either. It's almost,
but change it to $7.5 million. I mean, does it change at all? I mean,
yeah, I think the amount you ask for changes absolutely.
That's a lawyer. I don't think Brenda Tracy asked for 75. That's all a lawyer's doing, I'm sure. But
yeah, I mean, I need to know more exactly for why she thinks they're asking for that, and it's sort of weird. And lawsuits usually don't see a total either. That's
you need
done
to call
later
your
on.
boy Matt Mancarini.
Yeah, you and I have talked about this a little bit. Matt would like to do other things other than report on this story at this point. I think when he came back to the Lansing State Journal, one of the promises is, because he spent a lot of time on MSU and Nassar and all that stuff, and it was like, I don't want to just be that guy again. And then the second he came back, like,
I got to be that guy.
He had to be that guy for a while. So he's trying to write other things, but yeah.
Kurt Wisniewski next. Value bets on the following: over under 70.5 wins for the Tigers. Over under 210 strikeouts for Baez. What price am I getting on these, though?
Yeah, I mean, 70.5 is
I'll take 70.5.
100%. You jump on that. 210 strikeouts. Hold on, give me some Hoff. Let me see what Baez had last year.
Yeah, the bright in the hollow sky. It looks so good tonight.
Come on.
So what's your guess on strikeouts for him last year?
Well, there's 162 games.
He had 510 at-bats.
I'm going to say half of them, 250.
Now, 125 and 147 the year before. His career high, I believe, is 167.
It felt like 250 last year, though.
So So I would take the under for Baez then, because he just never done it that bad, and I would take the over on 70.5 wins, because it's a disaster for the Tigers if they're where they were a year ago.
Well, and Kurt, are these numbers that you're seeing, or you just threw these out?
Yeah.
Like, are you seeing these numbers anywhere?
Right. I mean, if you can parlay over 70, if you can find a book that'll let you parlay over 70.5 wins for the Tigers and under 210 for Baez and anywhere near even money, I would bet a fair bit on that.
DMB next. For the Rube, would you rather this year's basketball team win it all or take the football team regularly making the playoff for the next 10 years? Oh, it's basketball. Natty. Second natty for Izzo is all I want. I mean, football can do whatever, I guess. I just don't think that they're going to, for the next 10 years, are they going to get into the college playoff? I think so, maybe. But, a second natty for
Izzo would.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good question.
It would pretty much kill all that. He'd be able to go out on top, something like that, or even if he wanted to coach a couple more years after the second natty. So, yeah.
This year's basketball team would be stunning, too, if it happened to this group. So, but yeah.
A lot of crow to eat, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Let's take a really quick break. We come back, more of your groovy donut Twitter questions. Couch in the Rube, presented by Pure Options, precision-crafted cannabis, and our friends at Firekeepers Casino and Firekeepers iCasino and Sportsbook app.
Hey, sports fans, are you tired of the same old routine? Looking for a way to unwind after a long day? Look no further than Pure Options, the premier destination for all of your cannabis needs in Lansing, Detroit, Muskegon, and Mount Pleasant. Whether you're cheering for the Lions, Spartans, or the Wolverines, Pure Options has everything you need to elevate your game day experience. And here's the best part. Mention Couch in the Rube when you visit Pure Options and get a free GoPro 8 with a $50 purchase. It's our way of saying thank you for being a loyal listener. Swing by Pure Options today and elevate your cannabis experience to a whole new level. Firekeepers Online Casino and Sportsbook is the site to play from your phone, tablet, or laptop. Get in on all the football action with pre- and in-game wagering. There's showdowns every week in football that you can't miss. Plus, the college and pro hoops are red hot, and the pucks are cool. Get your first casino deposit and sports wager matched up to $500 each. Terms and conditions apply. Must be 21 or older and located in Michigan. Gambling problem? Call the Michigan Problem Gambling Helpline at 1-800-270-7117. Where else can you cheer on your team? Enjoy a mouth-watering burger or savory sushi? sip on handcrafted cocktails, or one of 46 beers on tap. Take your game day or date night to Cask & Company Kitchen Bar or Front 43 Neighborhood Pub near Frandor. 2 amazing places with 1 awesome blended modern American Asian menu. Catch the game on one of 30 60-inch TVs or stop in for the all-you-can-eat lunch buffet. Enjoy happy hour or elevate your night out at Cask & Company or Front 43 on East Saginaw in Lansing. Ever wonder how comfortable you can be and how good you can look? Put on a Muskox flannel and find out. Muskox has new arrivals for this fall, including the Caper Green Grand Flannel, which even makes couch look good. Muskox is a Detroit-based flannel company that creates soft and durable flannels made to last a lifetime. They become a great partner with Couch in the Rube, not just because they make us look good and feel good, but because they're good people too, and a socially conscious company. For every $100 purchase, $10 is donated to the Alaska Wildlife Conservation. Muskox flannels are designed with 100% cotton that is ethically sourced and double brushed for softness. Feel the quality and comfort of a Muskox flannel by ordering at GoMuskox.com, where Couch in the Rube listeners can enjoy $15 off their flannel purchase with the promo code HOFF.
Find Couch in the Rube podcasts on Spreaker, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spotify, YouTube, Facebook, Google Podcasts, CastBox, and the Rube's favorite podcast addict.
Couch in the Rube, presented by our friends at Pure Options Precision Crafted Cannabis. If you are preparing for this Michigan State basketball weekend or any Michigan State basketball weekend, we highly recommend Pure Options, Michigan basketball, frankly, just about anything. But treat yourself to the top quality cannabis at Pure Options. Go to pureoptions.com to check out location information. They are all over the state, including in the Lansing area. And again, a free ProGrow 8th with a $50 purchase. It's their way of saying thank you for being a loyal listener to us. And you going to them is your way of also supporting us, but you get a lot more out of it than that. So you'll love the experience. You'll love the knowledge. You'll love the vibe in their stores. Just a terrific deal with Pure Options. Go to pureoptions.com for location information and all sorts of specials and different offerings and everything. All right, back to your Twitter questions.
Jared up next. What are some random men's basketball teams that could make a deep run in the tourney?
Random, as in like not, Houston, Connecticut, Purdue. Like
What about Tennessee? I've been watching them a little bit.
I mean, they're Ken Palm 5. Is that random? I mean, I like them. Like if you want to know where my futures bets are with the Firekeepers iCasino and Sportsbook app, it's Arizona, Tennessee, Purdue, UConn, and obviously those are 4 of the top 5. But
yeah, but he said random. I mean, random doesn't mean it has to be a
bad team. Yeah. So if you want to go lower down the, and a team that I think could make a move or something like that, I don't think there are that many teams capable of winning it. I think those 4 in Houston are probably the ones. But if you want somebody to like make a Final Four run out of the blue, I still think Illinois is interesting. I think Iowa State is interesting. So there are a number of teams that you start to get down a little bit that I think could make a Final Four run, but I don't think anybody else could win it, to be honest with you. I think those 5 are the 5 that I think have a chance.
Next one from Jarrett Graham. My wife thought you looked like Dak Shepard on the BTN special. Thoughts?
I mean, anybody who's not like...
If he got stung by a bee.
Yeah. I mean, I'll take it. Really, I have a very low standard for comparisons, and
I hear you.
Yeah, I don't want to, there are a lot worse people.
Fat John Mayer is still one of my all-time favorites for myself, so
yeah,
take it.
Yeah,
Dak Shepard, I guess you take it.
That is not an insult. I'm thrilled.
Ken Chu next. When was the BTN Journey episode about Malik Hall's family filmed relative to the date of the MSU game at Northwestern?
That's a good question. I don't, and to be fair, I haven't actually watched it yet.
It's really good.
Yeah, I need to watch it. I've got it recorded, but I don't know.
G Quang up next. Why is everyone so hard on Malik? People keep bringing up bad performances like his Northwestern game, but his 15 points per game and 7 rebounds since January, he's the glue holding the MSU floor.
Yeah, I think a lot of it stems from some memorable games where he didn't perform and they lost, and those feelings sting. I think there's been some inconsistencies throughout his career, And they haven't won as much as people want, but he has been very, very good, and the numbers bear it out, even with a couple off days. Malik Hall is not the issue. Malik, you could win a national championship with Malik Hall as your third option and your power forward very easily, if you've got the right roster around him. Like he is not your issue at all. Really good player, and they just don't quite have enough around him.
Next one from G. Quang. But what of Jaden? He's the three-point specialist who can't hit threes, and even the high minutes has lackluster offense.
Yeah, he's in a slump. They need him to break out of it, because a big part of their ceiling, whatever it is him being the player he was for a little while a couple weeks ago when he was hitting a lot of threes, and the player he was at the end of last year. And that elevates him. It makes him just that much harder to guard when he's hitting, 2 to 5 threes a game. They need his shot. There's no question about it. They will not get very far if he doesn't bust out of the slump.
Cinemod next. Please explain NIL rules like I'm 5 years old. Are payments like a salary, or are the incentive bonuses for points scored or games won? Does Title IX require money to be split evenly between all spots? What are the differences between NIL and SD4L? I hear them used interchangeably.
Yeah, I've got to do a big NIL explainer, and I'm going to do it after the season, because I do think there are a lot of questions, and people don't realize what's what. Like, NIL is name, image, and likeness. That is the overarching, legislation and ability to earn money off your name, image, and likeness. SD4L is one of the collectives at MSU that helps pay NIL, along with the new Spartan Nation, Greg Williams collective. And this is Sparta, which is Tom Dieter's, and that one, that has tax deductibility. That one has a charity component. There's some cool stuff with that one. So Title IX, if you are an official, this is where it gets dicey. If you are the official, sponsor or official collective, there are some Title IX questions. We've seen it out in a case in Oregon already. Like, to what do you have to be Title IX compliant? It's a good question. I think those are still, it's a Wild West right now. I think those things will get litigated in the courts over time. But essentially, NIL is an endorsement. So it's supposed to be based on market value. And if you're Aiden Childs, you have different market value than maybe a field hockey player. No offense to Therese, of course. But in other words, it's not supposed to be split evenly. The football players are – Aiden Childs is making a lot more than a lot of his teammates. Xavier Booker is making a lot more than some of his teammates. That's just the reality of the situation. It uses a recruiting inducement at this point to some degree. It's used to reward really good players, which I actually don't mind that part of it. So there are not incentives, as far as I know, most places. But this is going to be an evolving situation because, one, I think athletes are going to become employees. Two, I think fans and donors are going to get tired of supporting teams with NIL and giving all their money to pay the – like, think about this. They already pay for tickets. You already pay for a lot of things. In the pros, the team and the league then handle the salaries. The idea that you've then also got to pay the players, that seems like a lot on you. And who's got the best fan base then decides, or the biggest donor base, who can afford what. There's a lot of mess to it right now. I think it's evolving. I don't think it'll look the same in 5 years. NIL will be around, and NIL serves a great purpose. Like, Caitlin Clark is not being paid by the Iowa collectives. My understanding is she is paid only through separate endorsements that she'll keep when she goes out of the WNBA, and it's a great deal. I think she's making more than $3 million a year or something. I don't know the exact figures, but she has value, and she's increased ticket sales exponentially for women's basketball. The Big Ten tournament sold out. The Big Ten women's tournament at Iowa. She is worth the dime, even though the university that doesn't pay her. And she is worth the endorsement. Most players aren't worth the endorsement. They are getting paid because, fans and donors want to win, and so that's their market value. It's different than like somebody who has a State Farm deal or whatever like that. But it is not a salary. It is supposed to be endorsement money, and right now it's being treated as a salary. in some capacity.
Do you think Caitlin Clark is going to change the WNBA, though? Because part of me was like, well, why would she leave Iowa when she's got so much money coming in?
It'd be the same amount of money. Yeah.
Right. But, I mean, if you play at Iowa, it's a college experience, a little bit more fun. You're not traveling on the road with a WNBA team. I just don't know if people are going to follow her Iowa, because I've watched Iowa games with her, and am I going to watch WNBA? I don't think so. But
I think people will, more than you think. Now, it may not be as transformative as I think it will be, but I do think that, first of all, everybody has their time in college. Like, what else is there left for her to do at the college level? At a certain point, you got to just do what's next.
Sure.
I think she's a good fit with Indiana, who's got the first pick this year, and so that's not that far from her. It's a white state. She's a white girl. She's the great white hope. I'm sorry, but that's the reality. That's part of the reality of this whole thing. And she's also a really fun player to watch. And the women's game has changed dramatically in terms of how fun it is to watch. And I do think it'll carry over because she's got so much Steph Curry to her game. And
so white players can't be good. That just
I didn't say that.
I
didn't say that. But some of the backlash towards her is there have been a lot of great women, black women players who didn't get anywhere near this kind of attention.
Kelsey Plum, the record she broke for a women's all-time scoring record. I mean, how many years? She's in the WNBA, right?
But yes, but the thing is, this is the.
But was Kelsey Plum heaving threes from half court?
Correct.
Dude.
It's her style of play that does it as much as anything. And it is. I mean, there's all sorts of components at work, but her style of play is what's really appealing, and I think that'll translate.
John, next, Graham is back in high school, balling out against Okemos, but his teammates let him down. Okemos students rush the court. How many does Graham trip? Does Graham take a dive when he sees a rival tennis player come near?
Oh, man.
Dude, 16-year-old, 17-year-old couch with those Oakley wraparounds.
Kangol hat.
Oh, shit.
Man.
That leg is staying out for at least five people.
Here's the thing. Yeah. I mean, and I didn't play high school basketball because I couldn't make Sexton's team. But the Okemos kids weren't coming to Lansing Sexton back then anyway, so there wouldn't be any of them around. But if you were at Okemos and they rushed the court, I'm just kidding.
Who was the girl that defended you all the time in elementary school or whatever? Maybe she would be there to take
girl.
it for you.
That was my friend Marcus. He's not.
No. There was some girl that did your dirty work for you or something.
That was my buddy Marcus.
No.
There was a girl, too.
Yeah.
That might have been a story I forgot we're telling.
Okay.
Presented by Midtown Brewing Company. Yeah, I don't know. But, yeah, no, it's a fair question. I would not have taken a dive, though. I would have been more apt to fight myself than take a dive.
Honorary Red Wing Stan next. The people want Chad Latz. Can we get a weekly sponsored segment for him?
Here's the problem with Chad. And there's no problem with Chad. Chad, if you're listening, I apologize.
Chad is in the hospital right now, so feel better.
Yeah.
I don't know why I'm telling him on the show. He doesn't listen to the show, even though we talk about it.
I just don't know if, from a reliability standpoint, if we could count on Chad for that sort of thing.
You don't worry about it. If Michigan State doesn't make the tourney, I'll handle all of that.
Oh, God.
Yeah. I'm willing to do that. Honorary Red Wing Stan. Graham just moved to Groesbeck neighborhood, and it may challenge your West Side for best neighborhood in Lansing. Rank your top 5.
Groesbeck is awesome. I lived Groesbeck adjacent over on Newton Street between Saginaw and Oakland for 5 years. Loved it. Little house over there. Loved the Apple Market grocery store. There's a lot of things about Groesbeck that are awesome. Got lost running around. Groesbeck's a neighborhood you can get lost in. Used to go for runs back when I was in a little bit of shape. And thought about asking some elementary school kids how to get out of the neighborhood over at Post Oak Elementary, and then thought that would be creepy, so didn't do it.
All sweaty.
Yeah, so but Groesbeck is up there as a good Lansing neighborhood. There's some good, the Moores River Drive neighborhood's good. There's some good neighborhoods on the south side. Lansing's near West Side neighborhood where I live is one. Groesbeck's in the top.
What about the south side?
There's some stuff on the south side that there's some good neighborhoods. Depends what you're looking for. And
I'm looking to not get shot.
Most of Lansing's population lives on the south side. So I don't know if I could rank the top 5, but number 1 is Lansing's near West Side.
Honorary Red Wing Stan. Graham, who cares about Quinn getting the scoop on Steven Izzo? What we really want is that Jeff Smoker story we've been waiting on.
Yeah, and Quinn doesn't even know who Jeff Smoker is, so I got that going for me. No doubt. Maybe that
I saw Quinn on Full Swing 2 last night. He was at the Ryder Cup, right? Didn't he go to the Ryder Cup?
Yeah,
I think I saw him.
Yeah. Quinn's got quite a
Bing
life.
Crosby.
Quite a freaking life, yeah.
Ramblers Dog 97 Roop, have you considered how this Latz bet could backfire on you? Like, what if Graham is so moved by Chad's life story, he writes a best-selling novel and gets adapted into an Oscar-winning film where your character is portrayed as the villain. I would be the happiest person on the earth if Graham wrote a movie script about Chad's life. I can be a villain, whatever you want. It's fine. I love Chad. I don't want anything bad to happen to him.
I fear that
He's an interesting character.
He is an interesting character.
Yeah.
I do worry there'd be some sad scenes in that movie.
And by the way, I think
novel.
Latz is losing out on this bet, by the way, too. I know Graham, he's got to do it, but I just, to hang out with Couch all day, Jesus H. Hallmark movies. Are you going to play a Hallmark movie for him? Will you take him? Well, Elizabeth,
I have not thought through this day because I'm sort of hoping it. I mean, no, Chad, it's not that I don't want to hang with you if you're listening. It's just I have not thought through this day because I've counted on Michigan State making the tournament for the sake of everyone.
Don't worry, Chad. He doesn't want to hang out with me either. Me and Joel Green next. Graham knows it's an 8th, not 8, right? He sounds like a narc for legal weed. Or this is just one of those words he says weird like bagel.
Bagel.
Or Vagus.
I don't say Vagus.
You say Vagus.
I say Vegas. Bagel I struggle with. 8th. I know what an 8th is.
This is where Vagus doesn't know.
I mean, I do think some of my pronunciation early on for Pure Options offer with us, which, by the way, again, $50 purchase or more, mention the Couch and the Roof show, a free ProGrow 8th is there for Couch and the Roof listeners. A really cool deal through them.
How many 8ths in an ounce?
Would to be 8 out? Eight.
I'll trust you.
Yeah.
I don't know either.
Yeah.
Mojo Jojo, can we get let's
not do math on air. It's going to be really embarrassing.
It's not even the weekend. Mojo Jojo, can we get a crossover ad read for Pure Options from Medawar Jewelers? They're not our sponsor, Medawar. So I mean, sometimes they're in the commercial break.
Yeah.
So we play it sometimes when I use the bathroom, and it takes a little longer.
I don't know what that would look like. What would the Pure Option? So we're talking high-end jewelry.
Pure Options in Frendor. Pure Options in Lansing.
High-end jewelry, high-end weed. I mean, I think there's something there. It's the quality that makes both of those places. Yeah, we could do it.
Let's do it. Mojo Jojo just got into Northwestern for grad school, but found myself rooting just as hard as ever for MSU. Does undergrad trump grad in college sports loyalties, in your opinion? Is it akin to being a young fan and falling for a team for the first time?
Yeah, I mean, I think there is something to the idea when you first go to college. It's like, this is my school. I actually have a team. I'm associated with this school and these sports teams, and we've chosen this together. I'm also younger, and when you go to grad school, it's more about business, and that emotional attachment is rarely there. I know some people try to claim it. I think, or some people probably do to some degree, but I think undergrad almost always trumps out.
Congrats on getting in there.
Yeah,
man.
by the way,
crazy.
that's impressive. I mean, I hate Northwestern, so fuck you and fuck them. But no, I'm kidding. I'm just kidding. I'll fix that in post. That's not what my wife
sounds like you meant that.
My wife goes to all these things at Medill, and she knows my feelings as a Columbia College grad about Medill, and she just rubs it in my face constantly.
Huh? Mojo Jojo, Graham, have you tried Green Dot Stables in Lansing? Was surprised and glad to see a rebirth. Was a big fan of their location in Detroit.
I have not. For somebody who's been in Lansing as long as I have, I've never been there. I don't think. Maybe once.
Green Dot Stables.
It's right over by Kalamazoo, on the way to Michigan State. It's. I've never been
How
there.
would you know what that place is like? You don't go to those.
Why would I not go to those?
It's like a country bar or something?
I love country bars. I don't even know it's a country bar, but all I've ever wanted to do is the scene in Cool Runnings?
Boy, do I.
Where they're in, Cool Runnings is a great movie.
It is,
Underrated,
but I mean,
movie.
came out in 89.
93, or something like that. Maybe later than that. 93. But it's the scene where they're in the Calgary in the country bar doing the boot slapping, which is always my dream, and then they get in a fight, and that is like I've always wanted to go to Calgary because of that scene in that movie.
I'm envious, and I also hate people that can remember movie quotes, though. I don't have any of that. Big Cat Boo up next. Who is the better matchup for MSU hockey in the second round of the Big Ten tournament?
Can they get Penn State? Because they reseed it, as far as I know, right? So Penn State hockey is the team you want to play. I think they're the best matchup for Michigan State. I know Ohio State's down there too, but they've played better of late. I would go.
Does Penn State's mascot go to the hockey games?
Not the road ones. This would be
one of the worst mascots in history. Tyler Simmons next. What are your thoughts on Fox announcing Big Ten football games playing on Friday nights? I can understand playing on a Friday night during Labor Day weekend. Another example of the Big Ten Conference only caring about money and not what is in the best interest of the sport.
What do you think about Big Ten football on Friday nights?
Like how many games? Are we just doing one game? Is it like
that's a good question. How
8 o'clock?
often? Because it's going to be part of a package. So I don't know if it's every week, but I think it'll be.
If it's
somewhat
multiple
regularly.
games, I'm not a fan of. If it's an 8 o'clock Big Ten Friday night game,
Be one game. Oh,
I'm in.
Yeah.
I'm
So
down.
it's not just the high school component. I know some people don't like that. That in certain markets, that's a problem for high school football. If you've got your big university playing, so I don't like that. And it's just more example of the Big Ten being greedy and Fox, leading the way. And I the other issue I have is. For me, like people who do want to travel for these games or do want to plan for these games, it's fine if you want to do that. You got to put your dates and times out now. This can't be a month in advance, 2 months in advance. Like I got all my shit booked. You're out of luck. Like I'm not changing my flight to Oregon. I'm not changing my hotels. I mean, hotels I guess you can wiggle around, but flights are harder for people. Like to respect people who plan these things. You want to do that? That's fine. But you got till like March 10th. Every year to have every Friday night date laid out. Otherwise, you're disrespecting the fan base. Forget the media. You're disrespecting people who plan for this stuff. Figure it out in March or don't do it. And you can tell I'm a little bit. Like right now, I think what the Big Ten and SEC are doing are making them so unlikable, so greedy the way they're pushing people around for the playoff. So ridiculous. It makes them really hard to root for. And I think a lot of people feel this way. They'll still root for Michigan State. But their feelings towards the Big Ten are turning. They are being a bully. It's disappointing.
But is 50% of your angst because of your travel plans, like that you would have to reschedule stuff?
No,
it sounds like I can hear the passion in your voice.
I think about other people. The LSJ is going to pay my travel, and if it costs more, we're still going. Like it's not really that big a deal for me. Right. But I think about because I look at travel and I see how I'm a logistics guy and I like to plan for things. I can only imagine if I'm trying to go as a fan what a pain in the ass that is. And that pisses me off.
Jay Riemenschneider next. MSU football is starting over again. So now when is the year they should keep it within 14 points of Ohio State? And when is the year they should be competing to win whatever version of the Big Ten we have at that time?
It's so, I mean.
This is a 5-year group, right?
Yeah. It's just, I mean, if you want to be fair to, I mean, you want to think it's within Aiden Childs' time, although they're going to get a new quarterback whenever he's gone. But you'd like to think year 3 and especially in the new college football where you can build a little quicker. And I do think that Mel Tucker, again, not fired because he couldn't recruit at all. A couple nice classes. Some of those kids have stuck around. Give them a chance to be better in the next couple of years. I think year 2, year 3 especially under him. So 2024. So 2026 is a year where you'll get a real good sense of things, whether they're there or not. I don't know. The problem is what's fair nowadays with the way recruiting is, the way the transfer portal is, the way half the guys are going to leave who come in. Is it fair to say, well, he's got to have his own kids in 2027, 2020? I would say 2026, 2 years from now, you have a pretty good sense of where this is going.
Dark Mantonio next. How many show up for the MSU Football Spring Showcase?
As Winston Churchill once said, it's weather. It's I don't know why I quoted Winston Churchill. And that was I don't even know if he said it. He said it in the show The Crown, which is a good show.
Sounded confident at the beginning there.
Yeah. I fucked that up.
Trailed
Usual.
off.
That's why I'm a bad storyteller. It's weather. You got all the other components: new coach, new quarterback, some intrigue,
and what is Smith going to do with the game? Right, like D'Antonio and Tucker had their different ways of doing it,
and people got a little annoyed with that at the end. And I am actually glad that this is no longer a flex for college programs. For a while, it was like, hey, we got 95,000 people here. It's not in
Nebraska.
April. Yeah, like I'm somebody who's a cyclical sports fan. I could give 2 fucks about college football right now. Do not care. Do not want it in my life. Don't care about it at all. And I think there are a lot of people like me. Like baseball, I'm interested. I would much rather be at a Tigers game on a warm April 20th day than a spring football game. But in the fall, unless the Tigers are playing meaningful baseball, I'd much rather be at a college football game. My mindset changes. So it's not even I'm glad that flex is kind of done. That was tired.
Dark Antonio, how many pull-ups can you do? And at your peak, how many could you do? And don't make up some fantastical number, Graham.
Well, you've seen my strength, my raw strength.
Arm length.
Yeah, yeah. So I was a push-up guy. I could do 12 reps of 225 push-ups. That used to be my best thing. Never been a pull-ups guy. I'll just be honest. I got a big rib cage, big dude, lot to lift, short arms. I could never do more than.
What about when you were younger?
Yeah, even younger. I mean, even when I could do a lot of push-ups and a lot of other exercises and some decent pull-down weights, I could never do more than.
How are you trying to convince people that you could have been a D1 possible athlete? You can't touch the rim. You've never been able to touch the rim, and you can't do one pull-up.
Do you know how many pull-ups? You know how many push-ups that like Xavier Booker can do? Like, or not push-ups, but like how much he can bench press? Like nothing. Like basketball players aren't lifters. This has nothing to do with. If I was saying I was going to be a football player or somebody who's in like a deadlift competition, that'd be different. And I didn't say D1. Nobody said D1 here. You're putting words in my mouth here.
No, my bad. Neurotic Pants, true or false? Steven Izzo kicked Tyson Walker in the balls. Well, here's the Manscaped live read.
Yeah, no, it's I've never seen that happen. But if this is where the groin injury came from and that was the story, it would be.
Thanks a lot, Steven.
Yeah.
All right, Neurotic Pants. Jason, if you were Graham, would you ask Izzo why MSU is barely above or just at 500 in the Big Ten for the past few years? I mean, Graham wants to keep his job, so I don't think I would. No, I don't think that's something you could ask.
You could ask that, but it needs to be phrased better. Like, why are you shitty is not a great question. Like, it's
not what he said.
I know, but like,
why are you ass?
Yeah,
past 5 years.
Yeah, the way you phrase that, and I think this will be asked at the end of this year, and it's sort of been asked to some extent, is like, when you look at the last 4 years, they haven't been as strong as previous years. Why is that? What hasn't? Why isn't the program where it was? What needs to be done to get it back where it is? I think that's a fair way of asking it. I'll think it through. I'm sure Solario beat me to it and stumble through it and we'll fuck it up for all of us. No, I'm kidding. I'm just kidding.
Neurotic Pants. Graham, when MSU is in the NCAA tourney, will a team make a slight zone coverage change, which will intimidate A.J. Hogard, who will then back off, causing Akins to take bad shots and resulting in Sissoko batting rebounds out of bounds and the team going to pieces and blowing a substantial lead?
I mean, this sounds like the worst case scenario. And things that you can sense. Yeah, no. The guy who should be really good in the middle of the zone, and again, just like Jaren Jackson years ago, I don't know if he's there yet, is Booker. Booker eventually. The other guy who, not Jaren Jackson.
Ben Carter.
Fuck. No, Jackson Kohler.
Oh.
Jackson Kohler could be good in the middle of the zone if they work on it. But this does sound like a bad scenario.
Spawn of Stout sponsors next. This reporter's sack is feeling fresh after mowing the lawn with my Manscaped trimmer. And while this MSU basketball team isn't worse than Fred Human's ass spraying mayhem after the meat lovers omelet at Sparty's Coney, what can Izzo do at this point to get anything more from them? I asked Mrs. Spawn this question, and she said if I asked it again, my odds of divorce go up 25%.
That seems fair from her. No.
We met Spawn of Stout sponsors, and I was like, I'm so sorry. I wish I could do Stout's voice for that long because it deserves a Stout kind of thing.
He's so good. Good dude. Yeah, good dude. Great bit. Met him and chatted with him in Wisconsin, and anyway, what can Izzo do at this point to get anything more from them? I do think his job and this staff's job is to maximize who they are and to keep trying to get Booker is part of that, right? Lineups are part of that. Does going small, is Trey Holloman part of your best lineup, and then he should be on the floor, and you're going small against certain matchups? I think it's less Madi Sissoko, less and less. Maybe there's a matchup for him out there, but I think it's not using two big guys. It's less Madi Sissoko. It's not using two big guys unless one is Xavier Booker, I should say. And it's being willing to try things. At this point in the season, it's hard to say, okay, Tyson Walker, you're going to run the point for a little bit. I think a guy like Trey Holloman does that adequately and does that pretty well at times. But you have to keep trying things within matchups and keep trying to get the most out of this group. I don't know what it is. I don't know what the answer is. I'm just rambling at this point, and I just hear myself speak, and it just doesn't stop, and I don't really know where to go with it.
JD next. If Doug Wojcik's so sweet, why does the Carr, Kohler, Cooper, Motti lineup keep happening? Checkmate, Graham. In all seriousness, what do they actually expect from those lineups? Offense completely falls apart, and the defense can't make up the difference. Experiment time is over.
Yeah, I mean, I don't get certain lineups out there. I mean, the Carr, Kohler, Cooper, Motti. Wait, when you have Motti in there, you almost can't have Carr at the 3, and especially if you've got Cooper. Cooper Motti doesn't work. That lineup should never be seen again. Even if you're going with big opposing team, even if the opposing team has big guys, there have been some weird lineups that I don't think that's all. That's not all Wojcik. The buck stops at Izzo. But these are questions that I think that still need to be asked to some degree and have been asked somewhat. Kyle asked a good question about the two big lineups. Izzo's stubborn with this shit. And, again, the way he has a mea culpa, the way he admits things aren't working is when you see them differently. He ain't going to ever tell that me or Solari or Kyle or any of us are right.
Right now, either you're stuttering or I'm not picking it up because it's a what. So
Nate C. next. Do you remember when MSU basketball almost lost on senior night to Boo Buie and 4 walk-ons, while MSU Twitter fawned over some guy named after a second-rate camping supply company who left the school last year? It's okay, though. He likes us better and said it won't happen again.
Wait a second. Is that Keon Coleman? Is that what?
I believe so.
Yeah. I do remember that night, but it's not 4 walk-ons. That Barzinger guy is a nice Barnsinger. I forgot. Good player. They've got a nice thing going at Northwestern, even with some guys down. That's white guy doesn't mean walk-on every time. Doesn't mean it every time, and so we got to remember that. So yeah,
kind of most of the time. Ben Jen next. Why should I give one rip about the men's Big Ten tourney? They make the NCAA. Nobody cares about the Big Ten tourney. They won't win it, and they're not enjoyable to watch play.
Well, then you definitely shouldn't. I mean, I would say this. If they don't win at Indiana, and I think there's a decent chance, you should care because if you want them to play in the NCAA tournament, they may need to win. I think they're probably in now. But if they lose to Indiana and then lose that first game against a not great team in an 8-9 matchup in the Big Ten tournament, there will be some sweat drips. It'll be like me under the lights under BTN with at
your own house.
Yeah, at my own house. It'll be ugly, and that's why you care.
Why do you think? Or why? What do you think the spread's going to be for the Indiana game?
I can tell you right now because Vegas is chicken shit. Vegas. They go with Ken Palm these days because they got beat by not going with Ken Palm years ago. Basically, what happened, it was Harry, I think, told us this initially. But years ago when somebody they were doing their own lines, right? They had their own numbers, and they set the line. And then some people went down, and just whatever Ken Palm had, they bet the difference between Ken Palm and Vegas and took Vegas for a lot of money. And so now Vegas pretends to set their own lines, looks at Ken Palm, and moves it by like a half. They're just total chicken shit. So Michigan State is holy shit. Michigan State's a 4-point favorite in Indiana on Ken Palm. Bet the Hoosiers. I think the line will open at 3. I think that's high, and I think the money will be on Indiana.
Lobster Puncher next. If there is a dysfunction on the team with certain guys being unhappy with the coaches or other players, will we actually find out about it? What else would explain this team's struggles, short of it's just not Tyson Walker, who was seriously injured?
I don't think there's dysfunction. I mean, I'm around practice enough. If there was real dysfunction, if guys didn't like each other, we would see it. Like if guys really you can see that when guys aren't fans of each other, and that does not exist with this team. I'm not saying they're the closest team ever, but they're not. A lot of guys like each other, and for being together all the time for 4 months, they seem to get along. They seem to enjoy each other's company and practice and enjoy competing with each other. I don't see that. I think there's just is a roster. There's no pros, and so it allows them to play up, but they can't overwhelm people automatically, and so they have to play well every time to win.
Hans Jurgen next. Chris Hill, Chris Allen, Darrell Summers, Rocket Watts, Jaden Akins. I'm tired of MSU shooters going into slumps. Do something, Graham.
Yeah, we'll see how long this lasts for Akins. It's not been that long. Like, Chris Hill was prolonged at the end of his career, right? I mean, there have been others. Rocket Watts wasn't that great a shooter. Let's see if Akins busts out of this.
Next one from Hans. Would you resign if the LSJ relegated you to covering Alma College sports?
No, if they didn't cut my pay, I'd have a blast. I would love it. Like, when I covered Western Michigan when I lived in Kalamazoo.
No kidding.
Yeah, it was one of my favorite times because it was like my own little warped world, the Mid-American Conference and basketball and other things. The MAC or the MIAA would be even smaller than that. I would be, I'd cover the hell out of it. Nobody else would be to all sorts of great stories. As long as they kept paying me, I would do that without a complaint.
Hans, if I manscape, do my chances of getting blown go up? Get 50%.
That's what we're told. Yes, we're counting on it.
I think it's 100%. Actually, yeah. I just checked the website.
Okay, cool.
Hans Jurgen, a Gordie Howe hat trick is a goal, a fight, and an assist. A Graham hat trick is a donut, a Lifetime movie, and a woke tweet.
Yeah, I think it's a Hallmark movie, not a Lifetime movie. There's a different quality.
Can we please send Manscaped Hans's tweet, though, just to show them like what they're getting from our show? I think they'll like it. Jake Hawkins next. If Caitlin Clark and the Iowa Hawkeyes basketball team would have traveled to East Lansing to play Robin Freilich in MSU, do you think the Breslin Center would have sold out for a chance to see a legendary player of our generation? I might have gone to that game.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, they sold out at Maryland. She became Iowa with her became a traveling roadshow. It was, like Eastern Michigan back in the Earl Boykins, Derek Dial days. Yes, Breslin would have sold out if Caitlin Clark had played here this year. It's too bad she didn't.
Next one from Jake. With a recent report coming out earlier this week about how Nick Saban decided to retire and that NIL played into it, do you think Izzo feels the same way? And do you think the two men have been in touch about Saban's decision and what led to it?
I'm sure they've been in touch because they're good friends. And I think Saban was pretty clear on just not connecting with players, not thinking what players wanted today would fit with how they built the program, which has some tenets of how Izzo feels. I just don't think Izzo's done, and I think that's the difference. I think Izzo has more he wants to get out of it. I think if Izzo had won 6 national championships, is that what Saban's at? I think Izzo would have walk away too.
Saban had to deal with a lot more guys, obviously, right?
Yeah.
Recruiting thing. I mean, it's got to be insane.
Yeah, it is a little bit of a different animal.
All right, last one. It's from the Hawk. What are your expectations for the Red Wings? Just make the playoffs and win at least one series, make the playoffs, be competitive, and come up just short, and moves in the offseason.
Ending with a Red Wings question. I must have thought the Upper Deck Jerk guy was still coming, and I didn't put those in the yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Jesus.
Apologies. Yeah, Upper Deck Jerk guy, we missed you. We were sorry. I'm just happy they're in the playoffs. I think we're all looking forward to seeing the Red Wings in the playoffs, right? I mean, it's more fun than not, and I love the NHL playoffs, especially. I think there should be an app for when there's overtime in an NHL playoff game, and there's some sort of alarm that goes off on your phone. We appreciate all of you producing our show, all your Twitter questions. We appreciate Groovy Donuts. Go to groovydonuts.com. Place your order today. Swing by either location, Lake Lansing Road in East Lansing or in Williamston, 7 a.m. to 1 p.m. Thursday through Sunday. We, of course, appreciate Firekeepers and the Firekeepers iCasino and Sportsbook. Download the app today. Take advantage of the new member free promotion. Bet the games we're betting or bet better games, frankly. We appreciate Pure Options. Go to pureoptions.com. Get yourself through the weekend with Pure Options. We'll be back Monday. Good show, man.
Yeah, man.
Couch in the Roof.